Now, before I get on to the Hollywood section, just to recap on a couple of things I've remembered and I've missed, and I'll do this every now and again, just interject some stuff. This whole thing, with obviously with the AI coming in, I mean, it could create this into a sort of a mini series or a movie. I think it'd be better to be like a mini series. Everybody's, well, not everybody, but everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody has got a story to tell. It's just, some people have just got more interesting stories that other people would find interesting than them. And you only get that through, I mean, I was going to say you only get that through travel. No, you don't. I mean, it's just it's personalities, it's how you view the world, and there's, so I mean, you can go trekking around. I mean, I've talked to people that have done traveling the world and stuff, and I'm waiting for the funny stories coming, and they're not, they'll say stuff, this happened, and I'm just thinking, well, is that the best that happened, Surely, I mean, for some reason, with me, and certainly me and Steve here on this trip, on this road movie, I mean, it was like, literally every day. I think maybe, obviously a lot of that's to do with the personalities and the chemistry. I mean, Steve, sort of kind of polar opposites really in a way, but we're together in this adventure, and then, it throws up all sorts of stuff. I don't know if I've said before, but I mean, Steve would be, Steve, he was a great lad at that time for me to be friends with, and going on an adventure with. But also, Steve's one of them lads who it's dangerous to know. You get them, and you just find yourself getting into dangerous situations, and which, when you're younger and you're sort of naive, but you're in an adventure and everything's just a laugh anyway. That's okay. But then, you can get to a point, certainly you'll get to a point where it's like, well, I need to step back here, in case I die. And, or, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen here. So, I mean, Steve was, he was, he didn't do anything as a teenager in a band, but he would have made a great little rock star, in a Motley Crue sort of hair band type of thing. If he'd been in Hollywood instead of 1997 with me, if he'd been in Hollywood in 1981, when the whole thing was fermenting, and he got in a band, there would have been no job more perfect for Steve to be in a hair metal band in the 1980s in LA, and that's because it's just what he was, It's literally, even 90s, 97, his hair's falling out, he's still got the twinkle in the eye, and everything about him still that sort of to excess, sex addict fucking, sort of dreamer, just go for it, whatever happens, and seemingly not to have fear. But it was a great, he was the best person to be traveling with, at that point in time for me, some of the things I've forgotten, which I'm putting in now, when we first arrived at the hostel, because all these things just create the sort of, everything I can remember just creates the background to the personalities of me and Steve, as best as I can. Steve, I can only remember from my brain, and I tried to putting in so Steve's personality's there, as well, who, so, I mean, kicking, was it? So, I mean, when we arrived at the hospital, obviously when I sleep, there's no waking me up, so next morning, Steve goes, we've just getting to New York off the plane, into this hostel, there's your bed, fucking I'm out. I was on a top bunk, and some fella was below us. Steve was on another bunk with someone. And he says, the next morning, he says, did you not feel any knocking? Banging? I says, through the night? I says, no. He says, oh, there's this fella, he was getting pissed off because you were snoring. So he's kicking your bed from the bottom bunk, He's like, shut the fuck up, man, shut the fuck up. Do you not wake up? I says, no, fucking not at all. So I just forgot about that. And that was, but that sort of thing kept recurring. Did you not hear out through the night? No, I was fast asleep. Which I was. Always fast asleep, like fucking when I'm out, Another time, this was like probably, maybe it was down south, maybe it's before we got to Panama, but anyway, it's, we're walking, I again remember walking, tried that thing of just walking out of some city or big town to try and find open fields and trees for a night's kip. Just kept walking and walking, and it's like, fucking hell, it's just the same as up the north, except it's not cold. So I saw, obviously there's no fences in the front of these houses, and it's just like a big open front lawn, and then this sort of massive bungalow, and a big drive, and they're all like that forever, you just walk forever and they're all like that. And it didn't really register, but I saw a school, like a yellow school bus, and I as we're walking along, I fucking hell, look at that, straight out the fucking movies, that, like, look at that, Steve, and it's, and I think I might have thought, well, that's probably a good person, because that's like the drive and the kids. It's not going to be a serial killer in there. So, charitable. So, why don't I just knock on his door and, and seeing if we can keep on this massive lawn. We've all got massive lawns at the front of the house. I mean, for fuck's sake, we're walking forever trying to find a field to kip in. And these people have got like little mini fields in front of the houses. It's just not on here. I'll just ask if we can put the tents up here just for one night. I'm English, you're Scottish. How often is that going to happen to them? It'll probably be a bit funny. So we walks up to the door, we knocks on the door, and this fat black woman, big fat jolly fat woman, opens the door, shocked, and I just explain what I've just said, and would it be possible for her to keep speaking on the lawn, because we're just walking for miles here. And she didn't say much at all, and looked a bit, what's all this about? Maybe. I mean, at that point, we're sort of late 20s. We're two big white blokes, to her, a bit scruffy, unshaven now, and she's probably seen the twinkle in Steve's eye and just seen, caught a look at me like, just kind of normal. And she just said, yeah, okay, that's fine. And that's all she said. And great, And so we set the tents up right on the edge of our lawn near the sort of pavement onto the road. There's no really cars going past, it's just gets quieter and quieter, it's just kind of suburb, but just grid line suburb going on for miles, And I just remember kipping home. Obviously, when you're kipping in a tent, you're always looking for a really flat surface, You've got to have a flat surface. That's luxury. That's heaven. So it's a lovely flat lawn. I'm like, oh, great, nice, lovely night to kip here. And I did. I was out again as usual, zonked out, and woke up the next morning. So comes out the tent. Steve comes out the tent. He says, "Did you not hear that noise last night? That knocking?" and that noise. I says, no. What happened? Like, he says, there was like, there's about 4 cars with all these fucking blacks, you know, and they were like sort of shouting out at the tent and that, you know. He says, I was fucking shitting myself. He says, I thought we fucking had it there, like, Rob, you know. Did you not hear out? And I was, no, didn't. I was out like a light, didn't hear a thing. You know, so, you know, I'm still not registering, like, Steve's always, you know, having these sort of, you know, things happen through the night, and I'm always asleep, you know, with Steve, so I'm still not registering with us. So it goes up to, you know, just gets cleared up, get them, packs up the tent and that, and I have a little plastic bag. I put with little bits of litter in it and just tie the plastic bag. Take that up to her door, knock on her door, and again she's shocked, you know, like, you know, just amazed, like, doesn't say no. Just holds this bag of rubbish up. I says, thanks ever so much, you know. We really appreciate that. And here's my bag of litter, you know. And she just took the litter. Didn't say no. Took the litter in her hand, and off we walked down our drive, and, you know, and looked back, and she sort of aghast with this fucking holes in this plastic bag full of litter still, you know. And that's it. We're off up the road. The cock-a-doodle-doo's awake. So he's awake. We are now. So I'm just looking at the notes here. The cock-a-doodle-doo usually shuts the fuck up, like, after a little while. He wants the door open, you see. He wants the door open. Still dark though, you know. So another one, across the whole trip, the whole road movie, 90% of the experiences were with white people, like, and then there was be some black people as well, and, you know, that there's no particular reason for that. It's just that's how it happened, you know. And this, you know, you're talking, this is 1997. There was, everything I see is like, you know, I'm just seeing what happened, like, so, you know, there's this, it isn't segregation 1960s by 1987, but there is sort of, you know, bits, there is lingeringness of that, like, especially as we were down south. And but, you know, it's, you know, I mean, I was actually surprised. I thought everybody would be peace and love, you know, but it wasn't like that at all. Like, you know, there was, and I don't know what it's like now, because this is 30 years ago. You know, the immigration into the States now, I think, you know, white people and the blacks are certainly not the blacks. Or I think they're outnumbered by sort of Hispanics now. I mean, it's much more of a melting pot now of, you know, 30%, 20%, 10%, 5%, 20%, 30%, you know, of different races who've come in. You know, there's Asians in there, there's Chinese in there. So, you know, this is, my experiences are not that everybody was sort of, it wasn't South Africa, you know, at all, you know, nothing like that. But there was just I was just noticing little throwbacks of stuff that still existed. And, you know, 97, we say 67, 77, 87, you know, it's only 30 years after 67. Is that right? 77, 87. And it's only 30 years after 67, you know, and they were in the 60s. So, you know, coming from the UK, you know, when you're young, you think 30 years is like 300 years, but it's only 30 years by 1997. So there was still, I have still caught the end of stuff like that going on. Interesting as well. I mean, this is just experiences. I'm not picking these out. I'm just picking the things I remember. So, you know, me and Steve are walking along in what looks like a suburban place, and you know, there's you know, you have your sort of coming from Britain and that, you know, you would have this idea of you know, a black area. You wouldn't think of it as being looking like suburban, you know, with nice cars parked outside. It's not a racist thing in your head. It's just what you program, what you just think, you know. It's just what you think. You live in that. I mean, I don't know what things are like around the world. You don't know what things are like around the world till you go there. So it's just like a suburban area. You assume everybody who's living in these houses is white. And then, you know, there's a big Martin Luther King mural on the side of this house. I'm pointing that out to Steve. Oh, look at that. The whites must like Martin Luther King around here. And then there's this house sort of at the end of this row. Again, just they're all big houses, you know, big gardens. And this guy, he's a big fat black guy. You know, like you know, like dark trousers and like a white t-shirt, right? Standing at his door. And I've just stopped all of a sudden because he's got like a white, beautiful, kept white Cadillac parked on his drive, right? Immaculate, proper old school. And that's another thing, you know, that was a disappointment to straight away. I thought they were all going to be Oldsmobiles everywhere. You know, I thought, you know, growing up watching Starsky and Hutch and Kojak, and I thought it was going to be all them cars, you know. But by 1997, it wasn't them cars. Those were sort of classics. But you'd still see one around every now and again, you know. But this guy had like a proper immaculate classic white Oldsmobile. He had a massive Goldwing motorcycle, you know, the biggest bikes you can buy, the Goldwings with a massive panel. That was white, immaculate. And there was another vehicle as well, which was like a classic vehicle, which was white. And now he had them all parked in his drive, like jewelry, like massive pieces of white jewelry out there. And I just stopped. Oh, fucking hell. This guy likes white, like he likes white. So I just sort of shouting out, and then he sort of come out to the edge of his lawn, and I'm just saying, "Hey man, I love your vehicles, you know." And he's, "Oh, thanks, man." Again, like trying to get blood out of a stone to have a conversation. Wasn't having it, you know. And I was just saying, just amazing. I'm just really impressed, like, you know. And you know, but you know, he wasn't really saying much. And well, nice speaking to you, mate. You know, we're off, like, you know. So you know, the apprehension and the sort of, you know, and then probably up the road like a bit, you know, and then, you know, Martin Luther King. I think maybe it's me and Steve are looking at each other, thinking starting to realise, like, you know, like, oh, we're like sort of two blacks walking through some really white area back in the UK, aren't we? Or anywhere, you know, we're like the two blacks, you know. So all these little things you never sort of enter your head ever, you know, until these experiences starting happening, you know. So, you know, these little things are filtering in. Also, what I forgot to put in was New Orleans. Before we go on the cycling trip, both me and Steve have, you know, we've left Panama City, sort of hitching across these states, heading west. I've still got my guitar from Nashville in a guitar case. Steve's got his banjo in his banjo case, which we've never played. We've never even sat down and played them, you know, because there's that much going on. You know, basically we're just carrying this stuff for no reason at all, like, you know, other than, you know, just as a beacon of, hey, come and mug us, you know. And I remember being on the bus coming in New Orleans, heading across. It was just like it was just like this road, you know, like a bridge, like a long bridge across marshland, which was really, really impressive. And you could see the New Orleans 20 mile in the distance with the skyscrapers, some skyscrapers, you know. They all look like that, all the cities from a distance. And remember, we got it. I think we only stayed in New Orleans maybe a couple of days. I remember walking around New Orleans on the night, you know, with all the music playing and loads of people about tourists. Well, there wasn't loads because I mean it was still early in the year, but there was still buzzingness. Actually, it wasn't that buzzing, was it? Really, I think that was one of the reasons why we didn't hang about. You know, it was out of season. You know, that's what it would have been. But I remember we were sleeping in a doorway of a building because just had to get some sleep. You know, and there's no trees or field. There's no fields anywhere, so. I remember this sort of hobo guy saying, he either said you could sleep here, this is a good place to sleep, or he was saying, you can sleep here, but you better be careful because you've got them instruments, you know. You may get robbed, like, it's not that safe around here, like. I think he's probably said the latter, you know. And again, you're just riding your luck, you know. You're just riding your luck, and you know, maybe it's me and Steve looking the way we did, you know, unshaven, dishevelled, you know, sort of white dudes, you know, are these two carrying guns, you know, and knives, you know, so we could look a danger to others, you know. I mean, who in their right mind is sleeping in a doorway in fucking New Orleans, you know? It's like the one where. It's like the one with Billy Connolly when he says, you know, he would walk around, you know, dangerous areas. And he says, the reason why I don't get mugged is because I look like a mugger, not a muggy, you know, when you look a certain way. And also when it came to selling the guitars at a pawn shop, we had to sell the guitars before we went into the bicycle shop with the old fella and buy the bicycles. We didn't have to, but you know, it was obviously there's no way on earth a good big guitar and a big banjo on back of bicycles. It was just time, you know. Unfortunately, I mean, it was such a shame, but you know, yeah, it's like I'll buy a guitar at Nashville, get the guy to sign it in the shop. It's like buying the cowboy hat, you know. Eventually, you know, that's not the reality, you know. It's just the stuff you do. The reality is, you need to be carrying as least weight as you can, and have as much money in your pocket as you can. So you know, you start shifting from holiday. I'm on holiday to I'm out here to survive. And I went to a pawn shop. I had a guitar and he made us a price and it wasn't a good one. No, so I come out the shop. I see Steve, we're going out of that. I saw there's a pawn shop over there. And went over there and he offered us even less, you know. I said, all right. So we went back to the first pawn shop. Steve's like, what are you doing? I says, well, I'll go back here. I'll say he's offered us this much. What are you going to offer us? So I went back to the pawn shop and I'd said something like, well, he's offered us $90, you know. What's your offer? What's your second offer? And you know, you could have said, well, just take it, you know. When the fella's probably only offered it with $40. So this fella goes, all right, well, I'll give you $100 for it, you know. So I sort of got my money back, you know. And that was that sold. I can't remember what Steve got for his banjo, like, in which shop he sold it to. I just remember selling my guitar. But anyway, they both got sold, but we both got money in my pocket. another little thing. Oh, that was it. When I was actually in, when I went back to the pawn shop, and the guy who bought it, as he's sort of sorting the money out, I sort of my eye focus comes into what's behind the counter. I fucking look at the wall. It's like just guns, pistols, rifles. Well, I'm not with shotguns, but probably was shotguns. But just the whole array of used weapons. You know, not air pistols, proper guns. You know. And I've turned around. I've looked at Steve. And says, "Fucking hell, look at that, man." And Steve's fucking aghast as well. You know, just fucking hell. And you know, as I came out the shop with me money, you know, I'm saying to Steve, "Fucking hell, should we buy a gun?" You know. And obviously Steve being Steve's gone, aye, definitely. And I've said, no, hold on a minute. Do we need to be buying guns? Oh, we're not American. We're not American, are we? We'll probably get done for that, like. And Steve's like, aye, probably, like. Well, I remember on the next Greyhound trip, the next bus trip, next time I was on a bus. You know, the Greyhound bus was packed, and I'm sort of in the middle of the coach, you know, and I'm looking around, and, you know, grannies, you know, blacks, whites, you know, mentally ill people, you know, Mexicans, you name it, they're all on the bus. And I'm just thinking, how many of these are actually carrying guns, you know, in this tight, hot, compact environment? I wonder how many of these people, they're probably all carrying a gun. I was like, fucking hell. Probably that little granny over there's got a little pistol on her, you know. So, those are just some of the things, just a little recap of some of the things I remember from 1997. The story continues on the next video, which is Hollywood.